First, of course, I have to thank Ross because he was the first person to hire me when I moved to Vancouver 36 years ago. So, big thanks. In those days, I was, poor, starving drummer, and I was taking my drums to places where I knew that there were no drummers playing. So, I hauled them to this place called Cafe Bergman in Gastown, where Eve Smith and Ross Barrett were playing. And, we're playing away and all that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, the door opens, and in comes Ross. Bow! With his saxophone strapped across his back, and his hat and everything. And so, hey, man, how's everybody? Ever the cool Ross. So, what do you want to play? What do you want to play, Ross? He says, Lush Life. Lush, which is a tough song, okay? So I'm like, okay, sure, and over here, okay, yeah, D flat, right? Yeah, okay. And I didn't know who this guy was other than his presence and his, height and all that sort of stuff. And Ross proceeded to just obliterate the song, right? It was just from one end to the other of the saxophone, and then he just kind of like flew out of there. And we're just like, wow. Somehow I managed to give him my number, and then he called me, and we went for a kind of I think we played in Roberts Creek or something like that. But then he introduced me to Jack Velker and the whole Sunday Soul Service thing, and that's really where I feel like I learned a lot more about music than any institution ever taught me, and that was the music of the street and the music of the heart and soul. Which leads me to talk a little bit about Ross's sound. And the reason he sounds like that is because he is fire, he is sunshine, he is love, he is spirit, he is freedom. He is what he is, and all that comes through his sound, right? That's why you sound like that, and that's been, an inspiration to me. The other thing I want to, personally thank Ross and Astrid, because they opened their house to my wife and I to have our, what do you call it after you get married? A party. Right. When they were living in Grandma 59. And
there's a town between Arnhem and Doetinchem where my mom's from. It's called Dee Dum, which is such a rhythmic name. Yeah. So I guess you were catching the train, I presume, in my mind. And you saw the name Dee Dum, and you're like, I gotta write a calypso song called Dee Dum. And you did. Yeah. It's not, I don't think there's much calypso going on in Dee Dum. It's a tiny Dutch conservative town in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Okay? 1, 2.